Hello, beautiful community. Let's talk about a slightly different political rationale that's present this year that wasn't quite present last year in Putin's attempts to attack Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. Now, of course, when we're talking about this, we're talking about impact on human beings, might be left without electricity, with injuries, or even without their lives. We're talking about the political rationale of it, and we're talking about the military rationale of it. And I want to talk about the political bit. The human side is worth saying something about briefly, though, because I think what interestingly Israel, Hamas, Gaza reminded us of is how much we struggle with this. And I don't want to give us the lowest marks possible, but we have not done a good job collectively at holding both what happened on 7 October in Israel and what's happened every single day in Gaza since then. And there have been people who could hold one but not the other. Too much. There's plenty of people who can hold both, but I think there is a kind of important collective failure there for us to reflect on. And part of it reflects the decline or death of the 20th century rights revolution, which really puts front and center two things: that human life is a human life no matter whose side you're on, and a human life is a human life no matter what the just cause is of the campaign, attack, war you're prosecuting. The same care with civilian life is required. The military motivation has something you can say about it that, if you like, borders on the political, and that is that the more the war at the front feels stuck, the more other avenues are going to be pursued. Attacking Ukrainian civilian infrastructure for the Russians, attacking various bits of Russian territory for Ukraine. But I want to talk about the politics here. Now, there is one factor that was very present last year that is comparatively absent for now this year in the Kremlin. And that is attacking Ukrainian civilian infrastructure as a way of doing domestic policy, responding to various kinds of pressures from segments which wanted more, or more quickly, or wanted the victory, or wanted more vehemence of destructiveness from the Kremlin. All that's still there, and it's going to keep popping up. But for now, Putin isn't required to do as much of a song and dance to respond to different political pressures acting on him at home. That's to say, he has entered a period, we'll see how long it holds, of a more stabilized hold on power. But what is different is they're thinking about the impact in Ukraine. So the point is no longer to sort of exhaust Ukrainians, which was never going to work. You can't exhaust a country if you attack them and back up your attack with genocidal rhetoric. You can't exhaust them very easily. But now the aspiration is to have these attacks on civilian infrastructure be a form of politicization in Ukraine. So that this year, but not last year, or beginning of 2024, these attacks will get Ukrainians to be in conflict with each other more than they could do a year ago, when exhaustively the whole situation was thought to be a product of what the Kremlin is doing. Is there more hope, the Kremlin is thinking, that maybe we could get the Ukrainians to fight among themselves, to question their own government? And so the concept is now partly changed. It's that we're putting a stick into the ground and seeing if it can disturb something that's going to be constructive for us, fall into our arms. That means maybe we can get Ukrainians to question what their government is doing non-militarily. Maybe we can get the population to question how their government is balancing the realization of Ukraine's goals versus the sacrifice of Ukrainian life. Maybe we can get the population to question whether the government has been effective in generating an international alliance to support them, and so on and so forth. Maybe we can get Ukrainians to quarrel about what's a vision for the future of their country that their government offers. We can get them to question the efficacy of their government, so on and so forth. So now it's seen, I feel, much more consciously as a stick to politicize and disturb and generate internal conflict. So that's one thing I wanted to put on the table. And then in terms of the West, there is also a feeling for Putin that he's now dropping bombs into a different world. And the Israel-Hamas crisis has helped Putin with this. The global perception, whatever your view of it, is that what Putin is doing now doesn't look as horrendous as what he was doing before. You might think that perception is entirely erroneous, but that's not the point. The point is, it's there. And you've got a West, Putin thinks, that has played all of its sort of easy cards, easy moves, but isn't happy to then invest more deeply in the crisis. And so it's kind of stuck. And the continuation of the conflict and the continuation of bombardment of Ukrainian civilian infrastructure just exposes this, right? And further agitates the West into these various mechanisms of avoidance and conflict and change of course, which are roughly always threefold. One is, it ain't our war. Two is, it's our war, but we don't have enough resources to alter its course. Without going to extraordinary lengths we won't go to. And three, maybe even if it is our war, and if we do have enough resources, we don't know if these resources are being properly used. And that's a line that's particularly common in US politics. And Putin feels that even without any obvious sort of military gains, attacking Ukrainian civilian infrastructure exposes these deformations and conflicts in Western domestic politics that could again help him. So he's poking a stick now into Ukrainian domestic politics, and he is poking a stick into our domestic politics with these attacks in a much more conscious way, it seems to me, than was the case last year. And as it were, poking some kind of a tool that glues things up and fixes things less into his own domestic politics. He's less worried about that now. So that's going to be a background to all of the stuff we're going to see over the winter weeks in Ukraine, and it's worth us just reconsidering, reconfiguring that a little bit. Lots of love and talk very soon.